Welcome back to HuffPost Live. I'm Ahmed Shihab-Eldin. And as you may know, conventional wisdom tells us that video games are all about escaping reality. Castle raids, killing zombies, intergalactic battles, that's what gaming is all about, right? Well, there's a revolution brewing in gaming that's testing the conventional wisdom, a new breed of independent games that challenge players to relate to human endeavors, like the drudgery of working at a call center, or the emotional turmoil of growing up with an abusive parent. The catch-all term for this movement is empathy gaming. But can playing games really make us more understanding, empathetic people? Well, joining me to discuss that very question and the games that they have made, Will O'Neill is joining us, the creator of Actual Sunlight, a game about love, depression, and the corporation. Vander, Caballero, the creative director at We Are Minority. Steve Gaynor, one of the developers of Gone Home, which just won a BAFTA award for Best Debut. And David Gallant, who created I Get This Call Every Day, a game about working in a call center that is all but too real. Thanks for joining us, gentlemen. Steve, I want to start by asking you, for the uninformed, for people who don't know about this, what is empathy gaming?
Well, it's an interesting term. I guess I don't self-identify as an empathy game developer, but I think it encompasses a lot of different kinds of game experiences. I think that it is a movement where, I guess, like you were saying in the intro, game developers are trying to talk about things that are a little bit closer to our own everyday experience and make games that feature characters that we can kind of recognize from our everyday lives, and hopefully through interactivity help you get closer to those people and what they've done.
And you talk about our everyday lives. I mean, maybe some of the games that are being created in this category, if you will, are inspired from our everyday lives. Is that true of Gone Home, your game?
To some degree, yeah. Gone Home is a game about a character who comes back to her family's house after being away for a year, and her family is missing. So you have to explore this house to find out what happened to the family that lives here. And through doing this, you get closer to the life and experience of the player character's teenage sister. And she's, growing up, she is discovering her own identity, and it deals with, like, LGBT themes, but a lot of universal themes of, being a teenager, figuring things out for yourself.
Obviously, something everyone can relate to, but was there something in particular that inspired it, or how did you come to create it?
Well, for us, our development team, we're a very small independent team, but before we started this studio, we worked on the BioShock series together. And those games are in large part about environmental storytelling, but also about, using magic powers and shooting bees out of your hands and stuff like that. So, we said we want to take that exploration experience, that interactive story experience, and focus it on just a house and a normal family and get to learn about who they are through that interactivity instead of combat and puzzles and quest objectives. And Gone Home grew out of that.
Well, I'm sure that all of you have your own anecdotes that, you could offer as to whether you like the term or not, but I want to get straight to it, Will, about the game you created, Actual Sunlight. It's based on your life, correct?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's essentially an autobiographical story, and it's something that I created to sort of tell my own story and show sort of a literary character study of myself and of my kind of daily experiences, as we were sort of discussing before.
And why is it so important to you, as we're looking at this, that games actually, I guess it's, be reflective of, or resonate for you on a personal level?
For me, I think doing this kind of story was really important because I felt like in a sort of Hollywood entertainment anecdotal kind of way, the story of a guy like me would cap off with some sort of training montage where I start jogging and sort of turn everything around and sort of make a run for a better life. And I wanted to tell something that was a little more honest. I wanted to talk about being kind of like in your early 30s. As some of your options begin to close, you begin to look back on life with some regrets, and you start to really have serious feelings about the choices you've made. And I wanted to explore that in a serious way in a game format.
Yeah, it was interesting, when we were talking to you earlier, you were talking about as the game continues, it gets more linear, you get less and less choices, and I would imagine that was intentional to match what you've just been describing about what your aim was.
Absolutely. I mean, it started off as a very literary exercise. Anyone who plays it will tell you there's tons and tons of reading. But the reason that it makes such a great game is because I'm able to use that interactivity and that game format to slowly take agency away from the player throughout the game, really reflecting the kind of myopia and the narrowing of your own personal vision as you get taken sort of more and more under by depression. And as you're interacting with the character, controlling with him, you have really powerful moments with that character where you're forced to do really quite serious and terrible things, and you're given no other choice as a reflection of that. And I really felt that resonated so much more in that game format than it ever could have in a book or a movie.
Yeah, it certainly resonates as you're describing it, having not played the game. But Vander, why don't we come to you? I mean, your game is actually based on your childhood, as I understand it. Papo and Yo, tell us a little bit about it.
So first of all, I really agree with empathy game term for defining the experience. So what I really like about it, because when I was a kid, I was playing Mario, and I spent all my time escaping my abusive father playing Mario. And I always defeated the evil monster, is the bad guy, by playing a lot of time, and my thumb hurts at the end, and I dropped the controller down, and then I went back to my real life, and my father was there, and I couldn't defeat him with violence or with jumping on him or speeding fireballs at him. Yeah. So I said, like, wow. Growing up, I became a game developer, and in my 30s, after working 8 years at EA, I figured out, look, this medium is not moving forward. This medium is not giving me what a good book is giving me or what a movie is giving me. So suddenly I said, no, we have to create games with morals, games that help us to cope with life, not only escape life.
And Vander, I mean, is this a product of, when you mentioned your father was abusive and that he was an alcoholic and that you would hide from him? I mean, is this a product of your hiding at the time and now, having that dream or that escape mentality now, kind of relived or, manifested in your game? Will it manifest itself in your game, or are you simply maybe trying to create an opportunity for other people like yourself?
Yes, I want to do a game that will bring healing to kids who have suffered what I suffer, and also to other people who are living in violent situations. So the game is about a monster who's your best friend and who's addicted to frogs. And when he hits a frog, he goes crazy and he starts destroying everything around you, including yourself. So that it felt when I was a kid. And I think the game really, dealing with the type of experience in a game is really more powerful than in a movie. Because, for example, you're playing Papo and Joe, and during the game, you're really afraid of frogs. Like, oh, a frog is coming out. The monster is going to turn crazy. I have to hide that frog away. Yeah. And it's unpredictable. So suddenly when you're playing the game, you don't know when this is going to happen. Right. And it resembles a lot of real life. So we have a 7-year-old kid playing it, and I saw him play, and I saw when the monster came out and turned evil, I saw him going like, I saw his anger, I saw his anxiety, and when he defeated the monster, or when he came out the monster, the kid turned calm again, and I went like, wow. This is really powerful. Therapy real time for a 7-year-old.
And I know, Vander, that you actually like the term empathy games, and you consider your game an empathy game. But when we talk about the term, David, and more importantly, your game, I love what it's called, aptly called. I get this call every day. It's about your own personal experience, your own life. Tell us a little bit more about it.
I mean, as you said, I get this call every day is exactly what the title says. I used to work in a call center, and it was a job that was really getting me down. It was wearing away at me, having to deal with people in this framework that didn't really allow us to interact like human beings. And I really wanted to represent a small piece of it. So I took one common situation that I went through, not necessarily the biggest ones, not the ones that had the biggest impact on me, but sort of like, the daily tide that wore away the rock, the things that I got every day, day in, day out, that were small, but just enough to really break me down over time.
And, David, when we look at your game and you talk about, that excruciating, slowly, painfully, perhaps breaking you down, we had an opportunity to kind of play around with your game a bit. In fact, I wonder if we could play it live here. Let me see. Let me try and maximize this window.
Definitely welcome to try.
Say it again. There we go.
Definitely welcome to try.